Hello, everyone. Uh, Welcome to our virtual Jungle Connect 2 and rather 3, sorry. So today, so we've been getting a lot of requests from people that they want to explore new ideas. They want to hear more about what should they be doing and how should they be starting up and what are the good markets, what are bad markets. So we thought, why not bring somebody who has some experience in setting things up, like in being an entrepreneur, and also just setting things up in a country which is developing and kind of growing pretty fast. So we are bringing Jonathan Welt. Let me just check. Weltman from South Africa today. So he runs a company which is called DXFS, which stands for DX Food Delivery. So he's just joining. So in fact, he's amongst us. And
Hello, Samar.
So should I call you Jono or Jonathan?
You appear to have frozen on me.
Is it now? Is
Hello?
it better now? Yeah, I can hear you. Just try to exit and enter again. Yeah, I think it's fine.
hear you now.
Yeah, I think it's fine now. So
Good.
sometimes it's a little, jittery, but the stream is generally fine. So don't worry about it.
Okay.
So guys, so he's Jonathan Weltman. He lives in Cape Town, South Africa, and he runs a company called DXFS, stands for DX Food Delivery. And they are one of our customers, and they are one of those customers who've been growing pretty fast, and they're already at a decent scale. So I just wanted to bring him on the chat to kind of give everybody a perspective of how to get started and how to kind of grow things, scale things well. So Jonathan, to start things, welcome first of all. Thanks thanks for your time.
Thanks
And
for having me.
why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey and where you are today, like just a brief for our viewers.
My personal journey.
Yeah, like so how did you get into this company and how did you stumble upon this idea? Yeah.
I studied aeronautical engineering a lifetime ago and got involved in the internet back in the 90s, where I first set up an ISP. And I've been in the internet game, in the e-commerce game for 25 years now, through some windy bits, from running development companies to consulting on e-commerce, through into aerospace, where I spent the last couple of years in the aerospace industry and a bit of Bitcoin. And I've been involved with Delivery Extreme, which is a food delivery business, for 20 years. As one of my closest friends is the CEO, and I helped them write their very first point of sale system. And earlier on this year, they were looking to pivot out of being pure logistics into a more technology service provider type role, which we think is the way that the industry is going to go, with merchants and retailers wanting to go direct to customer. And I came on board in March to help them pivot, help them select a technology. You were our second choice, and I'm glad we moved to you. We did it in less than a month. And since then, it's been quite a ride.
So guys, for everybody, there's a fun fact about Jonathan, that he was actually helping ISRO, which is the Indian Space Research Organization, with some rocket science stuff. So he's actually literally a rocket scientist. Am I right, Jonathan?
Yeah, well, I was trained in aircraft, not in rockets, but it's not too far off. Yeah.
So any connection with Elon Musk? Like, what's with South Africans and this rocket science?
I don't know. I think that a lot of us grew up in the Apollo generation, and we dreamed of going to the stars. And there's a thriving space industry here in South Africa, which which had to stop in 1994. We actually got everything cut off, but we have some amazing engineers. And when we were allowed to open up again, it was a contract with the Americans initially that we weren't allowed to continue developing our rockets. We had a launch site here on the east coast of South Africa, and we had to stop that. But we have amazing satellite integration technology here, and we develop some of the satellite systems and sensors and buses for satellites all over the world. And I just
pretty interesting. That's new knowledge.
Engineering's always been good, and it's the engineering that drives it.
Pretty interesting. So Jonathan, I'll want to address this most important question right away, which is like what everybody wants to hear now. What has been the impact of COVID-19 on your business, and how did you cope with it? Like, just give us like the last 2 months. I know it's a little extreme, but last 2 months rundown.
The business effectively came to a standstill. We were pivoting anyway, so we were looking at ways that we could change our company and what we do. But with the announcement of the lockdown and the banning of food delivery, a restaurant delivery, the business came to a complete standstill. So we made a decision to look at our tech that we'd been working on for about 6 months. And we took that and sampled the grocery delivery business. Launched a brand called X-Grocer, which is very quickly becoming our main consumer brand. And it was successful, and we learned some lessons, and we got to play with some customers early on. And MacGyver a system between apps and platforms and our traditional point of sale. And then when they announced with 1 week's warning that restaurants are allowed to open up again, we just threw everything onto the platform and went hell for leather and said, let's just do it and see what happens. And it's been a roller coaster, trying to get a whole company to a new platform, MacGyvering the back end and trying to tell customers that what they're seeing is what's happening. And it's very, very quickly becoming what's happening. And a lot of our new areas have launched completely on platform, and it's been phenomenal. And at the same time, we're still discovering features every day we didn't know were in your software. So it's great. It's been a journey.
That's always good. So tell us a little bit about, and by the way, guys, like I'll just sum up for you guys. So it's like, it's a roller coaster. It's a huge tragedy, but if you can, use this time to do things that you've always been like kind of putting off, it might not be that bad. I mean, it's like that renovation that you've been thinking of doing for last 10 years, but have not been able to do. Maybe, this is the time to do it. And it could even be like, for me, like this has been the time when I started doing yoga, meditation. There was just, I think there are some silver linings in the cloud also. I think that's what I am hearing from you, Jonathan, also. So Jonathan, tell us, if you can give a sense of numbers, like what kind of numbers are you doing in Cape Town? How many cities, South Africa, where do you want to be in, let's say, next 1 year? Only South Africa or Pan Africa, or what's the sense there?
So the traditional company, the logistics business, had 20.
Hey, Jonathan, can you hear me? Hello. Hey guys, can you hear me? I think we lost Jonathan's voice. Can somebody comment if they can hear me? Hey guys, I think we lost Jonathan for a moment there. So let me just tell you a little bit about what we were going to talk, and we were discussing before our before our live chat. As soon as Jonathan comes in, I'll patch him in. So we were discussing that they have been able to get bigger brands on board because of delivery just becoming super important right away, right? So I think one of the most important pieces of advice, so to speak, to take away from this is that yes, everything has come to a standstill, but if anybody, if we can be resourceful today, it might even be an opportunity in disguise, right? So in fact, I think Jonathan would be the best person to tell about a few micro entrepreneurship initiatives they are doing in their company. And we are also very excited that there are companies in Africa which are thinking differently out of the box, and they are actually fighting with giants like Uber Eats, right? So this is like one most important or general question that I get all the time: how do you fight with Uber Eats, right? And I think the simplest question is, simplest way to do that is, you wait and watch for a long time, and make sure that you can actually become profitable, stay still, and wait for them to make mistakes. So Jonathan is actually back. So sorry,
I'm
Jonathan. I
sorry
think
about that. A bit of fiber optic issue here.
no worries, man. No worries at all. I mean, it's happens all the time. Uh, so I was just like chit chatting with people. So I was telling them how restaurants are fed up of Uber Eats and other bigger platforms taking so much fees, and that's why these companies which are saying, okay, we'll take only 2%, 5% revenue share, are able to take market share. So why don't you tell us a little bit about like what is different in your business model, because of which people restaurants or bigger companies like McDonald's and Barcellos, as you mentioned, would prefer you over Uber Eats and other platforms?
Yeah, so as a traditional aggregator, we're just as annoying to these companies as Uber Eats or Deliveroo, or in South Africa, Mr. Delivery, or any of the traditional aggregators. The problem is, dead honest with you, it's really difficult, if not impossible, to make a profit as a food delivery aggregator. Your overheads are very high. The entire delivery fee goes to to your driver. The only place to make money is on commissions from the restaurant itself, and they're not happy to do that. So you end up putting on a markup and getting a limited commission. It becomes very expensive for the consumer. They're getting far more educated now. Before, you could just give zero delivery fee and have a big markup, and they wouldn't even notice that there was a price difference between the delivery price and the in-store price. Today, they know. And so it's a hyper-competitive game. And if you don't have enormous budgets to go into price wars with other aggregators who give free delivery, 2 for the price of 1 specials, you can very quickly be wiped out. And we looked at this and we realized that the industry as a whole is getting fed up with the aggregators because they're not adding value other than the fact that they've aggregated a customer base and are able to deliver to them, because the value add isn't in the driver's side. The value add has really been marketing from these groups. And the brands are saying, we can market ourselves. We don't need to be on aggregators to market. We need delivery, but you're not offering us a delivery option. You're actually only offering to go market and sell on our behalf. And for that, you want big amounts, and you just happen to bring delivery along as a back-end service. But if I want to go to you and say, just deliver for me and not sell for me, and have a reasonable rate to do that, it doesn't exist anywhere in the world. So our approach was, one, to do that first and foremost, is to give them a managed delivery solution, which is where the embryo of our first product started as an MDS product, is to give managed delivery to the restaurants so they could open their own marketing channels and we could provide them a delivery solution. And it's since evolved to the point where we've now set up this technology business, DX Food Services, DXFS, to sell platform solutions to our customers. Your solution customized to our customer base with our expertise on top of it, our knowledge of the delivery industry and the logistics and the processes involved, and to offer them a direct-to-market option where they own the customer and they make use of our platform.
They have the whole data.
They make use of the platform all the way through the value chain.
Yeah, makes sense. So one question is, because there are a lot of young people watching our stream generally who are, thinking of getting started in on-demand somehow. What would your advice be to them? Like, some space they should choose. What should they do?
Now is the time.
Or should they stay away from it?
Now is the time. No, now is the time for on-demand. I've been having this discussion with quite a few people, and a lot of on-demand products have existed for a while, but haven't succeeded. A great example for that is on-demand chefs to go to your home and cook for you. It's a great model that people have just not used because of the awkwardness, the cost behind it, compared to an evening in a restaurant. And of course, the service value. To get a great chef is a difficult thing to come and cook in your home. But for chefs now, the cost of setting up a restaurant, setting up a kitchen, the rentals in a market where for the next 18 months to 2 years, people are just not going to want to go and frequent and be in socially clustered places. The number of seats you're going to be able to have in a restaurant, for example, is going to be a fraction of what you're used to. So that's a perfect on-demand example where the nature of chefing is going to change. And the nature of home dining, the nature of fine dining will move to the home. And I think there's so many examples of that. There's so many different businesses. Clothing. Who wants to invest in really expensive clothing anymore? Why do you want to buy these assets? I bought a Hugo Boss suit. It's an asset. I'll keep it for 20 years. If you need a Hugo Boss suit for next Friday night, rent it. If it could be done, if it could be delivered, if it could be tailored. Hey?
Which you can wear around house.
Yeah. So that's
very true.
There's so many opportunities now I see coming in on demand, and I think that first of all, consumers are going to live in the now a lot more than they ever have before. This long-term
the notion
buying,
of owning a house, all those, as we were talking, like all the first principles go out the window because you don't know what is valuable anymore, right? I mean, that's true. So my next question. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, when someone looks at their life on a 25-year cycle, and they look at their life that way and say, "This is where I'm going to get you in 25 years, and then I'm going to retire, and then I'll have enough money, and I think that's all out the window because no one can honestly say, "I'm going to be here in 25 years." It's suddenly
that's true.
There's an existential crisis in our understanding of how long we're likely to live for, and that's what COVID's done. And how that affects every business is what's interesting.
Yeah. So Jonathan, tell us a little bit about the micro entrepreneurship platform that you were mentioning, and how you are helping like a driver to become an entrepreneur rather than just an employee. So that would be very interesting.
One of the big challenges in our industry is managing a fleet, managing the vehicles, managing the drivers, retaining drivers, worrying about cash moving around the value chain all the time. And it's very challenging. And one of the thoughts we had was to crowdsource the fleet. Mm-hmm. And the best way to do that is to give a business opportunity, create a way for people to, especially now with so much unemployment and so many people rethinking their careers, this is a perfect way to turn their existing assets, their vehicles, their computers and their internet connections into their own little business. So the idea is very simple, is onboard a person through your existing app, the driver management app or an agent management app, allow him to onboard and give him a business model that he can become a micro enterprise anywhere in the world. He can do deliveries and get a delivery fee. He can take on ordering and get a percentage of the order. He can onboard to the platform and get a commission for onboarding onto marketplaces for a marketplace. He can run a support center in a local language and immediately give first level support to any customer who's ordering an on-demand. And now you've got a whole lot of revenue streams that he can have a nice little business, even employ his family into it. And the beauty of that is it takes away your upfront infrastructure cost to enter your market. Instead of setting up a call center in a new country and planning the whole rollout, you just turn on the app, send out an invitation for people to join and create their businesses in that market. Get a fleet of 50 to 100 people, and you have a business, and you can support every client on every platform. And here you go.
You know, which is, I mean, it creates a lot of jobs, which is the need of the hour today. I mean, so many people have lost jobs today. So,
yeah.
So, okay, my last question for you is, give us an African perspective. Like, what is the opportunity you see in Africa? You know, do you think Africa is delivering as people have expected from it last 10 years? Politics, stability, like all the, you know, tough things to talk about.
Business in Africa is challenging. I'm not going to pretend it isn't. It has a very unique way of working, and understanding how government moves is a great challenge. And because of that, Africa's suffered a lot. We've had a lot of our opportunity, our resource, even our primary and secondary industry has been taken advantage of by giants like China, who have really had an amazing penetration through Africa. But the market is here. More than 50% of Africa is under the age of 19 or under. It's the youngest continent on the planet.
Younger than India.
It's very young and very hungry for opportunity, and very full of entrepreneurs and people who are looking for ways to succeed. And that's brilliant. And I think that one of our biggest problems is there's a big brain drain into OECD countries from Africa. And it's about retaining those really skilled, driven, entrepreneurial people. And the best way to do that is give them opportunity, give them education, give them opportunity. And from that, you'll be rewarded, because there's skills here. There are some incredible skills for operations and incredible understanding. So find yourself a good partner here, and you'll be amazed at what they can achieve.
So Jonathan, this is more like a personal question that just jumped into my mind, because when I was in South Africa, I mean, I felt it was very safe, but I was always given this impression by people that, you know, it's not completely safe. I could see all the fenced wires, like electric wires. What do you think about security in Africa? Is it a challenge? What should people from out of Africa think about? Like, say, somebody from New Zealand wants to go to Africa, South Africa, for example, or Nigeria, for example, wants to start a business.
Yeah.
Should they do it or should they not?
Well, absolutely, they should, without a doubt. I wouldn't still be here if I didn't think it was safe and secure. I've got 3 young kids, and to me, it's very safe. And in general, I've traveled most of sub-Saharan Africa, and it's not an issue. I think, like anywhere in the world, when times are tough and people are struggling, it can be dangerous. You need to be wise. You wouldn't walk in any community where you would make yourself vulnerable. And that's true everywhere. I think that it's expectation. So South Africa is a unique case. If you expect third world in South Africa, you'll come here and you'll be shocked and amazed at how huge parts of it are incredibly first world. And then around the corner, you come into developing country environments, and it's this mix and match, this hodgepodge of cultures and developing and developed. As you go more into Africa, it's very much on the development curve. And you have to be careful. You can't have a traditional mindset of, if things go wrong here, we'll just sue. The last thing you want to do is end up in an African court, and you're not going to get anywhere, and you're not going to win. So your contracts need to be sensible. You need to have structures that work for everybody. You need to be patient on how you're going to repatriate. look at how you can reinvest yourself into Africa in a long term. I know we talked about the now, and I'm talking about the long term. But I think that given a decade or two, even in advanced high-tech engineering fields, we have the square kilometer array is sub-Saharan Africa now. It's the most advanced engineering project on the planet. And it really, there are some phenomenal opportunities in development technology. And you can get your money. Don't get me wrong, you'll get your money, but you just need to be smart and understand a bit about how
Smart
Africa
about it. You have to know the right person and stuff. So sure. So now, so Jonathan, we have some people, like people from Australia, Sudan, Canary Islands, Nairobi, Kenya. So, I would love, you to answer some questions. So guys, anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. It could be about on-demand in general. It could be about, Africa, South Africa in particular, pretty much anything. So to start off, I'll just start one thing. So has there been a point where you felt like it's not worth it? I don't want to do this, because I know on demand is crazy, man. There's so many moving parts in the business. Has it happened to you or not yet?
Yes. No, it's happened. It's happened. It happens every day. I look at our traditional structures and I look at where we're going, and it's not a question of I don't want to do this. It's I want to be there already. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to be there, and I can see where we need to be, and I know where we are, and that's challenging sometimes. We're in a hurry to get there, but we need to enhance technology a lot better. It's frustrating.
Yeah. So for your there's this one question from Mohammed Musa from Sudan. So the keys to success in the delivery business in Africa. So what would you answer him?
It's so specifically in food delivery, the key is your relationship with your suppliers, with your merchants, with your restaurants. That's what you live and die on. Their ability to support you, whether you're dealing with your own customers or their customers, it all depends on how much they're willing to push their own product and their own brand in order to keep you going.
Yeah.
And that's why it's nice to have a client base to support them back. The second thing is to have an efficient driver model where your delivery agents make a good living, are not under pressure, are not looking to take.
Yeah, go ahead. So I'm so glad that you said this, because see, most of the customers I speak with, they're only focused about the end consumer, right? And I keep telling them, guys, what matters is your customers are actually the restaurant owners and the drivers. The end consumers are going to be happy if these two are happy. And I'm so glad that, both the points are actually about, being fair to the drivers, keeping them smooth, and having a great relationship with the restaurants. So I'm completely on page with that. So hope it helps, Mohammed. And then the second question is from Tushar. So how supportive is the government for newer startups in, I think it's particularly for South Africa?
There is a lot of government support available. It can be difficult to access. It depends on your empowerment score, which is broken up in a series of pillars that we do the scoring, which has to do with how much of your previously disadvantaged are shareholders, how much of your staff, your suppliers, how much you buy from higher BEE companies. And if you have a good score, then there are very many pathways to substantial funding. We have an industrial development corporation which will fund big projects. We have a small business corporation called Business Partners, which is also government driven, which will fund small ones. They will underwrite loans from banks. So there is quite a lot of support, but it can be difficult to access.
Know how to navigate it.
Sorry?
So I said you have to know how to navigate it. It's not straightforward.
It's not straightforward.
So I'm assuming having a local partner is almost essential, right, in Africa and most African countries.
What's essential? Sorry.
having a local partner is almost essential, right?
Yeah, I think that it's quite protectionist still, so it's not easy to come into any African country without a local partner. It would be very difficult. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult. You will need to set up local operations, and you will not get the kind of support or the licenses. If you move into something regulated, you're not going to get the licenses you need if you don't have local partners. And I think it's important to do that. I don't think we're ready to be completely free market. We are a developing continent. And if we didn't regulate and make sure that there was business interests within the land, in the country, we would just have all that money flowing out. And that would not be development at all.
Sure. So what should one keep in mind before starting up a company? I think this is more in perspective, like legally, should you be like, should you bring capital in? I think that's probably the context of the question.
Yeah, there's so many things. I think the first thing you have to do is make sure you believe in your idea, and then don't let anyone tell you it's wrong. If you believe in it, it's right. The second thing you have to do, and this is essential, make sure you have and ask for the right amount of money before you start. So many startups fail in the first year not because the idea wasn't brilliant, not because it's not working, but because they never had enough money to start with, or they underestimated how much they were going to need. They got to the first year and couldn't find it. And so the great idea died in a graveyard of many startups that have gone before for no other reason that they started undercapitalized.
In fact,
So
I see a lot
what it's going to cost.
Yeah, so a corollary to that is a lot of entrepreneurs underestimate specifically how much marketing is going to cost, because they feel, okay, I have the platform, I have the app, people will just come. It does not happen. It's like, it's a struggle. People are not excited about your product or your idea. You have to make them excited, and you have to really hustle for that. So yeah, I completely agree with that. So I think this is a very general question. Answer the way you want to. What are the main pillars of a successful business?
A good product at the right price that people know about, that's freely available.
Yeah, simple enough, just not easy.
Not easy, impossible, easy to say. The best things in business and life always are easy to say and hard to do. Be a good dad.
It's like saying, give me the best product in the world, but free, right? So, but yeah. So there's the next question is from Zach Vippy. What are some of the technical issues with your platforms, software that you encounter daily, and what are some of improvements you suggest?
I think software is always a challenge, and no one size fits all.
Tell me about it, man.
No one size fits all. Yeah. I think that it's learning to take the perspectives that you need to take. So we spend a lot of time on UX, very important to us, not just the software UX, but the whole channel experience, to understand how anybody in that channel works. And don't just look at it from a customer point of view, although it's very important. You have to look at it from your operations. You have to look at it from your agents, and you have to look at it from your suppliers. And it's really integrating all of those different perspectives into a single solution that flows. And then you find the blockers. You quickly find the blockers. You see, geez, this is where too much money, too much time, or this is where things are failing. And those are the challenges. When we started in the beginning with Yellow, we had our some UX issues that we really had to overcome, which was just about onboarding and the flow. Yeah. And it's always like that. It's every single day. It's how do we make the UX better?
I'm so glad you did this, because with my team, whenever we talk about, I say, guys, just don't worry about anything. Just keep role playing, keep doing the user journey, and keep smoothing things out. And I'm so glad you said it. It's what works in one geography or situation will not work in another geography or situation. So it's like, you just have to really keep doing this again and again for your customer and for your area, and it keeps changing from time to time also, I guess. So yeah, completely on board.
what's a real big issue, of course, is understanding the capabilities and specifications of your market. So amazingly, in Africa, there's an average of something like 2.2 or 2.5 SIM cards per person in Africa, which is phenomenal. But then you look at the smartphone penetration, the version of Android being run, and you can see that it's still a very much the higher sector of the market that has the capability to use apps. But we're discovering and we're being informed now that that has actually evolved a lot and that the market is ready to go much deeper. And nobody's tapping that yet. Shh, don't tell anyone. But we're going to go after that ourselves into a previously untouched market where there's now capacity, there's now the right product, the people are geared up, and nobody's offering them anything yet.
So another question from Tushar again is like expanding in other countries easy once you have like. So I think the question is that let's say you crack South Africa really well. So how easy it is to go to Nairobi, like Kenya, Uganda, and other places, or is it like really just going to a completely different market?
The really successful South African companies have always ended up going into Europe and America to become massive. Elon Musk's a great example. Elon's a great example of exactly that. And there's been a lot of companies. There was Gift with South African. There's been quite a few who've done it really well. You can scale into Africa. So if you're looking for a consumer market, you can scale into Africa without a doubt. What's really hard is repatriating money, but cross countries, cross borders. So you have to set up independent operations in each country. And like we said before, you need a partner in each country. But there's a gateway of SADC, South African developing countries, Southern African developing countries, for example, where you can very efficiently in that open market roll out. And you've got a huge consumer base there in South Africa, Mauritius, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, just at the bottom end of South Africa.
Aggregate, So another question for you is from Shipra. She asks, after COVID gets over, how do you see the future of on-demand business?
The more interesting question to me is, when is COVID going to be over? Truly over. It implies that we'll go back to the way things were before. And I don't think that's ever going to happen. I don't think our generation can go back, and I don't think the generation coming after us would ever want to. I think that they have very different value sets already and are so different from us. So I don't think on-demand is something that is, yes, it's been accelerated by COVID, 100%. But I don't think it's something that wasn't going to happen anyway. And I think that, if you just look at the traditional value sets of our parents and then you look at the values of our kids, they're far more demanding in the now, I think, and far more willing to adopt an on-demand lifestyle, an Airbnb rather than a holiday home, or a chef rather than a restaurant than we ever were. And so I think that the opportunities are going to be huge. And I think that, it will become the de facto main channel to market will be on-demand services.
Yeah. Makes sense. So this is an interesting question. How can startups compete against the giants? So let's say, I'm guessing food delivery giants that you mentioned. So some specific pointers for startups.
The most important thing is that giants move very slowly. They move very slowly. Even if they see it before you do, it's very rare they can get there before you. And if you're a startup and you see a gap that a giant has not moved into yet, get there. Be agile, be fast, be determined. Don't let anything get in your way. Get there. And then for a giant, it's more often easier to buy you than it is to do it themselves. And that's the greatest
success for you. Yeah, that's very, very insightful. Thank you. And then Amir asks, how big is the e-commerce market in South Africa in the near future?
It's already significant. Naspers, which is a ginormous corporation, owns our Amazon here, which is called takealot.com, and they own Mr. Delivery, which is along with Uber Eats, the biggest food delivery company, which they bought for several million. There's a new clothing company that just raised 100 million rand this week, which is pure e-commerce, fashion, high-end fashion. Basically, send your measurements and then order high-end brands online for delivery. The take-up here has been slow if you compare it to America, and we don't have an Amazon Prime type service here yet, which is a little bit surprising. But we're such a small market, I can understand why they didn't.
So Amazon is not in South Africa yet?
Amazon's call centers are here. Amazon's development, they do development out of Cape Town because South African programmers are very good and very cheap. But no, Amazon Prime is not here from a Prime service. You can get Amazon delivery, of course. You can order anything you want through Amazon, but the Amazon Prime service itself isn't here. Amazon shops aren't here. It's not as pervasive in South Africa as it is elsewhere. And Take a Lot fills that role, not as a Prime service. So they're not offering this club type, but anything you want to buy, they have 2 giant warehouses and same-day delivery. And that's Naspers, who are huge.
Yeah. So how should, so next question is from Vishagya. How should a company balance the aspect of serving to their customers or giving into market competition who has a bigger customer base? So, it's a tough one.
Puts a smile on my face because of recent conversations. Don't be greedy to grab everything that's in front of you.
Yeah.
If you can sit down and define your customer and know what he looks like and know who he is and know what his values are, and then you go out and you go after that customer and you don't worry about the ones that aren't who you're going after, you can carve out a segment. You can provide a niche specialized service to that customer and you'll get him. You'll get him if you do it right, especially if that customer is you, has the same values as you and understanding. And that way your competition is you're likely to want to take a segment of what your competition has to create your new business. And that's the way to do it, because there's no one size fits all. And the wider you go, the less specialized or the less value driven you can be for that specific individual or customer type.
So another question for you is, what are the main things to look for when starting an on-demand delivery business? I think you answered a little bit, but if you can shortly answer.
First of all, make sure there's a need. Make sure there's a need, that there's a people who want the delivery, who want the on-demand. Do your research. Speak to the supplier and merchant base and check that there's a need there and how they would value it and what that would mean to their business. For some businesses, you're going to double or triple their revenue by giving them an on-demand outlet or channel, or delivery only, never mind on-demand, just being able to provide delivery. And and if that exists, then go for it.
So next question for you is from Rafa. Hi, and thanks to share your experience. Did you need your own software developers to customize the Jungle Work solution?
I'm very happy to say no. One of the things I've managed to learn in the last 25 years.
No match fixing here.
No fixing. One of the things I've done in the last 25 years, which has been very good for me, is to not reinvent the wheel. And sometimes you just don't have to. Sometimes there's a perfectly good wheel. You don't have to reinvent it. You just have to put the right mags on, make it look sexy to the people you want it to look sexy to. And you can do that. So our business is more focused about subject expertise and project management than it is about actually developing the underlying code, which is what we're better at. It's not our core.
Yeah. In fact, don't do things that aren't your core. Before our talk, we were discussing that, you want to sell. And I think that's exactly what an entrepreneur should do. If you can sell, everything else kind of gets sorted out. And to add to this question, I would like to say that there are people who want to be perfectionists, right, from day one, and no solution in the world is perfect. So what I would think is that, people who are entrepreneurs should not be perfectionists. They should go to market, hustle it out and see what issues happen. Because a lot of times a lot of those issues are in your head, and consumers worry about completely different issues. So I think maybe just go to the market with less than ideal thing and kind of get a little bit of bashing. I know it's not easy, it's not nice, but that's what an entrepreneur's job is.
Even in big corporations like Windows, for example, they only ever get to 95% complete. To do the last 5% would never mean they would never get to market, and they would never make any money. So there's always at least 4,000 to 10,000 bugs in any release.
Yeah, exactly. So next question is from Vikram. So he's asking, how are you seeing the traction for cloud kitchens in South Africa? Travis Kalanick is, as everybody knows, after cloud kitchens, he says that that's like the next disruptor. What do you think about it?
Are you talking about dark kitchens, grey kitchens, where they cook for multiple brands in one? Is that what he means by cloud kitchen?
Yeah. So basically, no physical location, just pure, dark kitchen, cloud kitchen, whatever you call it.
So yeah, absolutely. We're seeing a lot of that at the moment. We're even seeing traditional restaurants that are multi-branded are doing everything for the different brands through one store. So restaurant groups. It's an obvious, because people who are sitting at home, they can't sit in restaurants right now. They want the taste of the food that they're used to. And if you can do that out of a single kitchen, it doesn't make sense to incur the overheads of retail rentals. And I think long term, there's always a push for that, but it's always a little bit, people are a little bit, I don't want my food coming out of it. I want to know it came from the retail store. But I think it's going to change. And I think that the branding is going to be interesting, because this all now boils down to brand. How do you convince the consumer that the brand identity that they have grown to love, the flame grilled chicken or the delicious burger, is just as good coming out of a dark kitchen as it was coming out of the local store that always looks the same, that has millions of rands of shop fitting done, big expensive retail locations? How do you take that away and still convince the consumer it's just as good if it came out of this big industrial kitchen?
Yeah, that's, I think, for time to tell, and some localization has to happen, right? I mean, it can't all be robotic, I think, but you never know. So I think so our friend from Sudan asks advice for startups in Africa.
Get a partner who knows what they're doing.
Good. And then how to attract customers. So I think this is end consumers. So do you market to end consumers at all, or not focus
absolutely, on that? Absolutely. So obviously we're developing the B2B company, but our primary company was an aggregator. So it was all about grabbing customers, and we launched engrossing very early on. We're still seeing 100% growth day to day in orders.
Wow.
Getting about 30% adoption on a daily or weekly basis, about 50, 60%. And we're not doing any real marketing. It's about being clever. We use social media a lot. We create good, funny ads for social media. Use your referral programs. Use your customers to help you adopt. Use your customers. If you can get to your merchants' customers and you are offering them something, a way to access their merchant better, you have a giant marketplace waiting for you without having to spend a lot of money to get there. And that's been a very good adoption onboarding method for engrossing, our consumer brand, is using our merchants, the marketplace as customer.
That's a very smart idea. A lot of people don't leverage their merchants' customers as much as they can, because they're always shy, and they can't think of a win-win situation with the merchant. I think that's very, very interesting. So I think let's take the last question, maybe, because it's probably a bit late for you also. So how do you convert your vision into practical solutions? What's the process or research behind it? Are you a research-driven guy? I mean, it doesn't seem like it.
I would say I'm 50% research, 50% feel.
Okay.
When something just feels right and it sounds right and it just clicks in your head, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's a process to get there, and then you know it's right. When you know it's right, it's wonderful. But it's about having an idea and then moving it forward, finding a block, overcoming it. I'm trained as an engineer. We're taught how to go around things. I see so many people in business who will bang their head against a wall trying to solve the same problem the same way every time. And it's learning to be lateral and go around those problems and be flexible. Let people tell you you're wrong. And if you can't persuade them that you're right, maybe they have something, and consider it. Be able to have the argument. And then it will evolve, and be an evolutionist. Know that the idea you have today is not going to be the final solution that's going to make you successful.
Be focused on the problem, not the way to get there, because the way we will evolve, and the solving the problem that matters most. So great, man. I think that was really, really insightful. At least I learned a lot of things, and I'm sure people had a great time. So thank you very much on for your time. And
I just wanted to say, there's been a lot of people on your end who have bent over backwards for us. Shyam, Shivan Gupta, who's done everything you could ever ask of a person, even outside of his role. The project managers, the Fork team now, who are doing so much work for us. And I just wanted to publicly say thank you to them. I know I'm a difficult customer, and I've made some bad nights for lots of people, but I'm driven, and I appreciate everything that they've done for me.
Customers are the most successful. So, really appreciate it. And thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot for all the effort that you guys are putting in. And I'm also very, very thankful because, to be honest, I'm just I was just a student 10 years ago. I'm just my team. So that's pretty much it. So I'm very, very proud to have a team that I constantly hear from customers about. And, so thank you very much. And yeah, Jonathan, let's continue our conversation about, deepening our partnership in Africa, and, how can we help each other grow, and, can we be partners in true sense, and take it forward so that, you can grow explosively, and we can help you more. So yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.